You heard me.
Can you make her a co-host and unmute her? And I'm starting it up now. The weekly sermons of 45th Street Baptist Church are now available as a podcast through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts.
you know how powerful this is? Do you know what it means in your life? Or maybe I should ask the question, does it mean anything in your life? Until you learn how to study it, and see what God is saying to you, you'll never really be able to fulfill your purpose. Come on and join us. Join us for 45 minutes of purpose here at 45th Street Baptist Church. I guarantee you, you'll come out thinking differently. And my prayer is, somewhere along the line, you'll find the purpose that God has for you. Come on in and join us.
Welcome to 45 Minutes of Purpose with Reverend Andra D. Sparks.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We have switched our normal 45 minutes of purpose format back to one that we haven't seen in a little while. It's called our Street Talk version. And that's when we are honored to invite members of the community and special guests to join us and discuss various aspects of our community. Tonight, we are absolutely thrilled to have a very, very special guest all the way from, I believe, North Carolina is author Vanessa Miller. She is the author of The Filling Station, a novel that we've asked all our members to join us in reading this summer. 384 pages, all about us. We're thankful that she has agreed to join us today. She is um, an experienced writer, and so we've asked our own one of our own writers from the church, Sister Chandra Splon, to join us in leading this discussion. I want to make sure you put whatever questions you have for Sister Miller in the chat, either in the chat here on the Zoom call or on Facebook or YouTube. Make sure you put it down in the chat, and we'll make sure we convey those questions to her. I don't know about you, but I thoroughly enjoyed the book. I listened to it on Audible, and at times I was distracted by the book and not doing the work I was supposed to be doing because it had me so engaged. But I'm thankful that I got through it. I will tell you that Sister Miller has told us already that she's been a little bit under the weather, and so we want to be mindful of her being under the weather today and pray that whatever she's got going on, she gets resolved. She gets resolved, but she is um, going to talk to us about some of the character development or whatever you want to talk about with respect to the filling station. We didn't keep account on how many of the members read it. We thought it would be a treat to you, and so you shouldn't have to be forced into a treat. And I hope you took advantage of it. I'll tell you what, one of the things I loved about the book is the fact that it allowed me to delve into an aspect not only of African American history, but it allowed me to delve into an aspect of the U.S. history that I hadn't thought about in this way, and that is the Tulsa race massacre. Now, I don't know how many of you have heard of it, had heard of it before you started reading this, but the Tulsa massacre is a known fact. So many people were killed. So many people were killed during this time. I love the fact that she stepped into it and put as much emotion in it. And she also humanized it so well by including a specific family that she concentrated on, the Justice family. I'm certain naming that family, the Justice family, was not coincidental. I'm sure she did that. Um, I'm sure she did that intentionally. It's interesting to me that is um, that she has allowed herself to delve into this, and she has no family background in it. I asked her before we got on camera if she had any background in it, and she didn't. She didn't have any. It looks like she's having a little camera problem right now. I want to make sure we got her on board.
It says
As
my camera is disabled by the host.
I don't even know how to do that. Yeah, I don't even know how to
Pastor
disable
Sparks, you
yourself.
should be able to look up top where you see her name. Is there a way to turn her camera on from there?
Um,
There should be a picture of the microphone, and then
yeah.
is there a camera next to it?
Let me see if I can do that. This is the first time I've ever heard of something like this going on, but here we go. Let's try. No, I don't see it. It just tells me I can ask her to start a video.
Click that.
There she is. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How many preachers does it take to get a video started? It's a question. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to 45th Street Baptist Church and to our edition, what we call Street Talk.
Hmm.
Um, we're looking forward to discussing this magnificent book you've written. Thank you so much for, first of all, for allowing yourself to be pulled in this direction. Tell us what led you to writing this book.
Well, it was actually a conversation that I had with another author. I had taken Lisa Wingate to breakfast. We were at a writers conference somewhere in Texas, and I was thanking her for the stuff that she had done for me for the American Queen. And the night before we had breakfast, she had just watched some information about the Threet filling station on the Discovery Channel. So she told me about it, and then she was like, "You might want to check that out." And so when I went and I began to research the Threet filling station, I recognized that I could combine this idea of a safe haven with a family that had gone through the massacre in the Tulsa Race Massacre. So I wanted to combine the two and be able to do a story like that.
So just for those folk who are joining us on some medium because we're streaming on all the platforms we have, and I'm just believing that we have some folk who join us for our regular Bible study who perhaps have not read the filling station.
Okay.
By way of background on the story, you want to give them a little synopsis of what the story's about?
Absolutely. So the filling station is about the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. It's not only about the massacre, though, it is about resilience. It is about a people who would not give up, would not give in. So, what happens in this story after the massacre? There are Margaret and Evie. They they leave their home in Greenwood, and because it's been burned down, and they find the Threet filling station. And this is where they are able to find comfort. They find people who help build them back up so that they can go back to Greenwood and rebuild their home and their businesses.
I love the way in your story development, Vanessa, how you set us up for the tragedy that was to come. How you built the Justice family up and talked about the daddy Henry and how he had such a prosperous business and how well respected he was in the community. And this set a perfect environment for the daughters to be, in my opinion, a little naive about what the world was like prior to that time because they were raised in such a cocoon in that community of well thinking people, well respected people. They
Yes.
had no idea, I don't think, that this kind of evil existed
Mm,
that would come and literally wipe out everything they had known, including killing their father.
yes. So I wanted to be able to introduce the reader to Greenwood in its glory before I showed them this massacre, because Greenwood was the place that was called Black Wall Street. This is where um, Black people were entrepreneurs. They were doing the thing. They not only came to Greenwood and built their homes, they built businesses. that were they had movie theaters, they had stores, they had hotels. People would come from all over to go to the Stratford Hotel, and they had just about anything you would have in any other community. Greenwood had it, and the people were prospering. So Jim Crow did nothing for Greenwood. What they did was they turned Jim Crow on its head, and they prospered in spite of it.
Is it my understanding that there were actually two movie theaters in town?
There
Uh, uh,
were. Now, one was owned by a white person, and but the movie theater I'm talking about is Dreamland.
yeah,
And yeah,
Dreamland.
and so that one was owned by a resident of Greenwood.
So the personalities of the daughters was unique and had certainly been honed because of the tragedy that happened in their family prior to that, with them losing their mother. Um, the elder daughter was Margaret, was in fact the mama figure to the younger sister, or at least she felt that way. And in any sister dynamic like that, the younger sister didn't want to be mothered by her elder sister, even though she needed to be mothered by her elder sister. And but I love the dynamic in that she wasn't just mothered; she was smothered in love by her
Yeah.
sister, and she didn't appreciate it. She didn't appreciate it until tough times hit her.
Yes.
It
Well,
was
yeah,
uh, it was wonderful the way you developed that. But this filling station, have you ever been? Have you made a trip to the actual spot where it was?
I made a trip to Greenwood. And so I was able to walk the streets of Greenwood and also go into there's a museum there, the Greenwood Cultural Center, and there's also another museum down the street from it. But in there, I was able to read the testimonies of survivors, and that was very eye opening for me. It actually helped me to be able to build the story. Now, the actual filling station I wanted to visit, but when I contacted the great grandchildren of the uh, previous owner, I did not hear back from them. So I did not want to go on their property without their permission. I always ask for permission with each book that I write. When I go out to visit the areas, I always ask for permission ahead of time. And so if I don't get that permission, I try to respect that.
Well, based on that, how many residents or descendants of residents, I should say, did you actually talk to when you were writing the book?
I talked to several. I cannot tell you how many, but I talked to several people who were descendants of residents of Greenwood. And one of the things that always rang true with each person I spoke with is that none of them knew about what had happened in Greenwood when they were children. It wasn't something that was discussed in the household. So they didn't find out about it until they were maybe in high school or even college. And there was someone, a teacher, who talked about what happened in Greenwood, and then they would go home and ask their family members, and sometimes their parents didn't even know about it. So it was like a world class secret, and there's reasons for that, but I truly believe that the people who uh, rebuilt their homes in Greenwood, they knew that the sheriff had something to do with the massacre that occurred, and he was not arrested for it or anything. So I believe they chose to stay silent to protect their families. And so this is how come now, generations later, they are finding out about it outside of the home when they go and they read something on what happened there. And so I'm thankful for the filling station because it's shedding a light on what really happened in Greenwood for people who don't know the whole story.
What's interesting, you bring this up because we're in Birmingham, Alabama,
Mhm.
and of course we live in the seat of civil rights actions and activities.
Yes.
And what you're describing is not so different than what we experience here, even here in Birmingham. we have to remind this generation, and of course their parents haven't told the story that we had 4 little girls that went to Sunday school in heaven in the same morning. We haven't had that
Mhm.
discussion with them, and they don't
Mm.
understand that this is not history that's hidden. This is history that's in the open. There's a church downtown that everybody comes to visit around the world, and right here in the community, we don't even talk about it.
Right.
And that's because of how we deal as a people with our history, which is
Correct.
why I'm glad you took the approach you did. While it did feel like a historical piece, you didn't write it as such. You wrote it like a family love story,
Yes.
and that was beautiful to me. Um, the main character, in my opinion, is Margaret.
Yes.
She is, in your
Yes.
opinion.
Yes.
Yeah,
Margaret and Evie are the main characters
yeah,
of the book, but most people tell me they just fell in love with Elijah.
yeah. I'm sorry. He was a bad dude.
Yes.
But it was because he was a man of conscience and courage,
Yes.
and he loved the Lord. He loved the Lord, and that led him to
Absolutely.
lead and love other people. And,
Absolutely.
and so I love the way you brought them together the very first time after that night of exhaustion, running from Greenwood to
Mhm.
heaven knows where,
Yes.
through the woods, and literally Margaret was exhausted when she fell into the arms of the man she would later fall in love with.
Yes.
It was a beautiful situation. Well, it was Evie that was actually exhausted, but both of them were at wit's end. And here comes Elijah,
Yes.
um, and he's just trying to help somebody.
Absolutely. And but you have to imagine that that situation played out for many people who were escaping Greenwood. Not an Elijah, but they ran into people who just wanted to help after dealing with a tragedy such as this because they lost everything.
Yeah,
So
literally.
they didn't have anywhere to sleep. So they had to go and figure it out until, of course, the Red Cross brings tents, and then they begin sleeping outside of their property in tents because they're forced to because they have to stay there in order to claim their property.
It's the recurring issues surrounding civil rights or Jim Crow issues that you put in the book were um, disheartening. That people had to live in that place. The notion that there were places in this country that were known as
Yes.
sundown cities, and we don't even talk about this kind of stuff. I believe we probably have some vestiges of sundown cities still in
That's
this
what I was
country.
getting ready to say. I think we still have some sundown towns because we still have this hate and it's trying to grow and it never left. But now it feels comfortable out in the sunlight. And
Yeah,
so I think we have these towns that are now popping up again. And so yes, it is our constant struggle, but I just truly believe in Black people. We continue to rise, we continue to fight no matter what has been thrown at us. This is, yeah, we don't always want to have to continue to be so resilient. But the fact of the matter is, we are some resilient people. Um, they have tried and tried to destroy us, but we keep getting back up. We keep showing up. And so, Greenwood is this thing. I just saw something on TikTok where a man said, because they're building their own white towns and they're going,
yeah, I
I
saw
don't know
that.
what the uproar is. They're not really getting the uproar from Black people because I don't really think we care. But it's
Right.
like, but his comment was, I don't know what the uproar is. We don't care if Black people go build their own town and make it successful. We want that for them. And his comment kind of negates history.
Right.
That Black people have built towns that then white people came and burnt them down, or they turned them into a whole lake. Is it Lake Lanier
Right.
in Georgia? I think it's
I
in
don't know if
Georgia.
that's the lake, but I know that they flooded whole black towns, and
Oh yeah,
of course,
flooded them.
Rosewood in Florida was destroyed.
Rosewood was destroyed, and so this is the history that we deal with, and so I understand why it's not necessarily discussed at the kitchen table, because we want our children to think positive about this world and things like that, and I think also we don't want to necessarily deal with the history that we have in this country, but I truly believe that knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And so we can't, live in a world and we just act like we don't see what we see. We have to understand what we continue to fight against, because if we don't know what happened in the in our history, how do we stop it from happening now or in the future? And so that's why I believe books like The Filling Station are so important to kind of shed a light on this evil that creeps up. And when Black people are just trying to mind their own business, and then they say, well, we don't like how successful your business is. And so then suddenly it's, no, we're not going to mind our own business. We're going to come over there and destroy what you have going on. And so it is really a catch-22 in this country, that they don't seem to understand that we are the ones who truly mind our business. We don't mind you having whatever you want. We just want to be left alone with what we have as well.
Well, I think it also belies what we've learned in scripture, and the fact that this is a church hosting this tonight. I got to go there. The Bible tells us pretty clearly that there are some historical things that we have to make sure we tell our children. Deuteronomy is pretty clear that God instructed Moses to teach the children about what they had gone through when he got them out of Egypt,
Mhm.
because he knew that it only took a little while before people's memories would cover over the tough parts, and they won't know that they're living in houses that they didn't build, or drinking from vineyards that they didn't plant, and wells they didn't dig. We have forgotten to tell the stories to our children about
Mm.
sundown cities. And we talk about the 1920s that this book is seated in, but when I was in college in the 80s, we continued to call Montgomery, Alabama, a sundown city. We knew it wasn't good for young brothers to be in Montgomery after sundown. It just
Right.
not good things happen there. And I know if it was happening there still, then it was all over some of these other southern places as well. So I'm glad you brought this out in this way, but you didn't just dwell on the bad actors that were in other races. You also talked about the bad actors that were in our own community as well. Uh, the young brother who was preying on the young ladies as he made it through with the Negro Leagues. You made sure you put him in. He was a player, but he wasn't just a baseball player. He was playing women. Yeah, yeah. So I want you to I want you to know, and Chandra, I'm sure you picked this up on there, that she didn't leave those common themes out either with those with the players in there.
Now, but I did have like a soft spot though for Tommy, even though he was, this guy that people will go, oh, he's terrible. Look what he's doing. He had his own trauma, his own issues that he dealt with in life that could not, that would not allow him to stand up and be the man he wanted to be.
Yeah,
And
you
so
brought the
that's how
daddy issues
that's
out.
how I saw Tommy.
Yeah, I understand. I understand what you say. You gave him some background that
Mhm.
seemed to justify his lack of ability to
Yes.
attach properly to
Yes.
the responsibilities that he made. But at the end of the day, he was just selfish. That's all.
Oh, very selfish, but I truly believe that some of our selfishness or some of our lack of, being able to stand up and be who we're supposed to be, it comes from traumas that we have dealt with in life. And that is where he found himself. So she just happened to pick the wrong guy because he was not ready. He was not trying to be ready.
I'm enjoying this thoroughly, and I know Chandra's going to jump in a minute, but I want to make sure that anybody who's on any of our platforms is asking whatever questions they may have. And one of the questions that we've already gotten is, did you find the voice for the Audible book, or did your publisher find it?
Excellent question. So the narrator, her name is Angel Peen, Pean, and we found her with my first historical with Thomas Nelson, and it was titled The American Queen. And she did such an excellent job with that book that when we finished the filling station, me and my editor said, okay, no, we need her again. And let me tell you, you think she does an excellent job with the filling station, you should hear her narrate The American Queen. She actually sings in that one. And
Oh,
so yeah, she does. Oh, and she won the Audie Award for The American Queen.
well, she
Yeah,
was
she's
excellent.
she's really good. She's
She
really
was
good. I'm
excellent.
so thankful. So what happens is uh, my editor gave me a choice of a couple different narrators. So like they'll go find several narrators, and then I can go and listen to some of their work. And so I figured she would be perfect for it, and she has been. She just has that soulful voice. She's really good.
I love the fact that you had some sleeper heroes in there as well, and it seems that the majority of them were women in there. The woman who owned Dreamland,
Yeah.
yeah, but also I think that every community has a sleeper heroine like Miss
Mhm.
Alberta, who was magnificent to me.
Yes.
And I was sorry to see what happened to her. Although it was weird, it was real. It was real. What
Hmm.
happened, considering the situation they found themselves on, I'm sure
Yes.
plenty of people simply could not brave the elements and the circumstances. And it
Hmm.
wasn't as if the Red Cross was really trying to help those folks.
Unfortunately, let me tell you, that was kind of the worst part of my research. When I found the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Red Cross Relief Report, I thought I had found a gem. I was so excited. I said, "Oh my goodness, this is going to be wonderful." And so I sit there and I start researching, I start reading, and the things they said about Black people in that Red Cross relief report angered me so terribly that I was sitting at my desk one day, and I remember the day I recognized it. I said, wait a minute, this was written 100 years ago. So after 100 years, there's no more copyright on anything. So that was the day I said, you know what? I emailed my editor and I told her, I'm going to tell people what the Red Cross was saying about Black people in the
Mm.
book. And so that began my epigraphs at the beginning of each chapter
I love
because
them.
it was me getting my anger out at the Red Cross, and I was like, okay, look at what they just said here. They're supposed to be helping them, but what they're telling us is because they're Black people, they must work for whatever relief they receive. And where do you do that at? When somebody experiences the worst that this country has had to give them, and they've lost everything, and they're mourning the death of people that they can't even find because they've put them in graves and they don't know where they are, but you still tell them they don't have time to mourn. They don't have time to grieve over the loss of their property and everything. They have to begin to work. because for any relief they receive, they're going to work for every bit of it. And the Red Cross received money in to help them. There were millionaires that were sending money to help them. And I'm sure they did not know at the time that the Red Cross was saying to them, to get this help, you have to work for it, even though they were given the money.
But it goes back to that resilience you talked about.
That's right.
Because we've had to fight through so much
That's
and
right.
go through so much, we have become we should be a people that understand we can get through any circumstance.
We can get through any circumstance.
But I don't
We
know
shouldn't
that
have to.
yeah,
We can
right.
get through any circumstance.
And
Yeah.
if it's okay if I jump in, Vanessa, you were talking about the research you did. Is there
Mhm.
anything surprising that you came across during the research that you weren't able to include in the book?
That is a really good question. But woo, it's been so long now. I'm not gonna. I'm sure there were things that I could not include. I just don't remember which things I took out, or I later said, okay, I'm not going to use this for space and time, because we had to pull some things out for space, because I only had a certain amount, but I cannot remember what I put. I went on and wrote a whole nother book afterwards, so I can't remember what I had
Is
to
there
take out.
Well, we had a question that came in. Did writing the book anger you or make you proud of the resilience of our people?
It did both. Uh, I was it was hard for me to write this book in the beginning because with all of the research I had to do, I was very upset, and I was almost mournful as I was researching the book, until I ran across the part about the 1925 parade that goes down Greenwood, announcing that they are back in business. And then I began to understand that I'm not just writing about a massacre, I'm writing about resilience, because that parade showed me that, they just weren't going to be a people that let tragedy, you know, just, stop them. They were going to keep on succeeding. And then when I found out that they became more successful after the massacre than they were before, I knew I had to write this story. I mean, because you have to think about it. Booker T. Washington was the person who dubbed Greenwood Black Wall Street. And so Booker T. Washington died in 1915. So, they were dubbed Black Wall Street before the massacre. And then they become more successful after the massacre, after already being dubbed Black Wall Street. So I was angry and I was proud. You know, so it was twofold, and it fueled my desire to tell the story.
If there's one takeaway from the story, what is it you want people to remember after reading this?
We've already mentioned it. I want people to understand that no matter what we face, what comes up against us, we are some resilient people. We can get through anything, and uh, our trust in God, even though getting through tough situations may cause you to question, where was God? That He's still there. And so those are the things I wanted people to kind of understand. And it was hard for me as a Christian to even, I had to figure out how to position God within this story. And so I gave Margaret that she would be my one who was going to question God, because I imagined that, with Greenwood, there was a church just about on every other block. And so the people were faithful. The people were attending church in that community. And So I imagine that there had to be someone who would question God with, what happened? Where were you? So but I wanted her to be able to sit with that, because I don't believe that there's any easy answers when you go through tragic situations like that. We can tell people all the time, oh, just trust God anyway. That's not necessarily an easy thing for them to do after having gone through, what they had to go through. So I had to figure a way for her to just walk through this journey and to learn to accept God and trust him anyhow.
Two things. How close to the actual events did you stick to in the book?
I try my best to stick to the actual events as I'm writing, even though I have to use fictional characters in this particular book. Uh, I'm introducing you all the way through the book to real people. So if you were to look up some of those names that I mentioned, and I'm showing you something that they did, you'll find that those people, you can find information on them. And so I tried to stick as closely to everything that happened as I possibly could. When I take you back to Greenwood, all of that is based on research of what they had to do in order to rebuild this place, of where the hospital was, of all of this, all the things I'm placing, it's in the research.
So there was actually a 3 filling station.
Actually, a 3 filling station. Those the kids that I'm naming in the book, those were the children she was having during that time period. Now, I don't believe that the people from Greenwood stayed with her as long as Margaret and Evie did. Now that's the fictional part, but they did have people came to the 3 filling station from Greenwood who were escaping the Tulsa Race Massacre. And so she actually, Miss Alberta actually had about 8 kids.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't even name them all, because she has more after the time frame of the book. And so I'm showing you, the children. But yeah, Albert and Alberta 3 were real people, and he owned the 3 filling station. He did create a baseball diamond where the Negro League came and played. He had a farm because he owned hundreds of acres of land, and he had a juke joint. And so yeah, he was just an all around man.
What's this fascination you have with food in the book?
Oh, I'm trying to get over it right now. My husband and I, when I go on tour, we actually we call it an eating tour also. So we go and we find places to eat, and we're like samplers. We want to know what's good in your town. And so I picked up several pounds from that. From not only having a book tour but an eating tour. And so now that I'm off tour, I'm getting ready to try to let go of some of these pounds.
Well,
Yeah,
I
I love
just
to eat good
noticed.
food.
Well, and you write about it at various places. Miss Alberta could cook the pancakes. Elijah could cook the diner. That what you call
Pancakes
took
are
it
my
to.
favorite.
I mean, it was just food everywhere, good food everywhere. Well, this moment that we're in nationally, um, with a lot that's going on with other people
Yeah.
of color right
Yeah.
now, um, it should make us reflect on where we were 100 years ago. And your book does a really, really good job of reminding us that there's always going to be somebody in the crosshairs.
Yes.
And the fact that people were being locked up and having to prove who they were in Greenwood, having to prove that they were fine, upstanding members of the community, and having to have white folk come in and say, "I know them."
The same people who burnt their places down.
Yeah.
Um, so I couldn't understand that with the Red Cross, where they said you have to have this the white people were the only upstanding people. So they had to come and vouch for the Black people. It is the shame of this country that we live in
Yes.
that we continue to have to go through things like that. It is, because we are not what they portray us to be. But it is racism that denies us from being who we truly are right in their faces. But so when they get an opportunity to do something like that, it is their racism that causes them to lock people up in these fairgrounds and these places where they can't even get out, because that's another way to degrade Black people.
Well, it's
That's
happening
another.
right now. It's happening right now. Other
Yeah.
people
So now
are
that's
going
a
through
way
it.
for them to degrade brown people. And
Brown
so
people. That's
it's
right.
always this othering in this
Othering. Yes.
country. And it's
Yes.
not that I don't love this country that I live in, but this country that we live in has a lot to atone for.
The Red
And
Cross, it
so
appears the Red Cross does too. Have they ever apologized for their conduct during these times?
no, not that I'm aware of. I've never heard of or seen any apology for that. I know they're probably sorry that they write this stuff down, and then someone can come and discover it 100 years later. I wonder if it's still even discoverable online, because I'm sure they know now that I tell everybody that I can what they did. And so
Well,
that was my that is my joy, that I get to say what these people did.
well, I'm going to join the chorus and tell you because that's not right.
It's not
It just
right.
wasn't right. Listen,
Now,
listen. I know we say it's 45 minutes of purpose, and we've already hit 45 minutes. And we have well leaned into your time, and I can't tell you how grateful we are as a church congregation that you decided to come and share with us tonight. We appreciate you allowing the Lord to use you and your giftedness to
thank you
educate
so
us
much.
about what has happened. And after Chandra says whatever it is she wants to say, we're going to say thank God for you tonight.
Thank you so much.
Well, I just want to echo Pastor Sparks. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to find out more about you and your other books, how can they get in touch with you or find out more?
Well, they can go to my website, which is just vanessamiller.com. They can also join me on Facebook or Instagram. I'm on Instagram at author Vanessa Miller, and Facebook Vanessa Miller Pierce, Pierce, or author Vanessa Miller. They can find me at either one of those. And if you have not read The Filling Station yet, go get your copy.
Oh, it's an awesome, awesome read. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Vanessa. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
God
Bye
bless you.
bye.
Take care.
All right.